are listening to the podcast A Resonant Life, produced by The Time Is Now Productions. I am Mike Thompson, your host and Reflector-in-Chief. In this podcast, we will discuss experiences and insights from living a life devoted to uncovering the authentic self and finding fulfilling purpose from the past, the present, and the future. This podcast is a product of my life and experience, and I'll share my opinions. Opinions between people are various, and we don't all need to hold the same ones. But it is fun to hear the opinions of others as it gives us an opportunity to freshen up our own. If you enjoy and gain insight from listening, please subscribe and share. If you have questions, please email them. And as always, nothing you hear here is a proscription or a prescription. It is a discussion of life and life's internal and external experiences. So let's get to it. Hi, and welcome. Thank you for listening today or watching if you're on YouTube. However you are joining, I'm so happy you are. Last episode, we discussed anger and how to master it and use it to create happiness rather than letting it overwhelm and poison us and our lives. This week, we are going to focus on how to really stabilize and reinforce the positive changes we are going through, as well as firm up and lock in the new ways of looking at and acting in the world. So it's about practice. It's about practice and discipline, practice and discipline, or disciplined practice. I think we've all experienced getting excited about something new in our lives, right? Maybe a new hobby or exercise program, maybe dietary or health goals. We jump in with enthusiasm and we dig deep into whatever the new thing is. But life interrupts, inevitably. Things happen. Seasons change. Weather changes. Pick or name anything. And over time, we find that we've stopped doing whatever it was that excited us. Whatever that new hobby or gym membership, that vow we made at the beginning of the year, whatever it was, the interest wanes over time. The commitment erodes. Focus and attention shift elsewhere, and poof, it's gone. That hobby, exercise goal, habit, it just rolls into history, and we're mostly back to where we were before. Maybe a little healthier, maybe a little slimmer, maybe a little more well-read, but back to where we were before. So that is the nature of things that are good for us. The changes we try to make that move us to a different path, a different track. Our minds work against us. Our minds want us to pretty much stay in predictable boxes, even if those boxes need changing, or the walls of those boxes moved or removed, those boxes no longer useful or helpful to us, our lives, and moving forward. So why? Why would our minds, our very own minds, why would our minds work against us like this? Now, I'm not qualified by any means to give a scientific answer, but I can offer an opinion. On a deep level, biological, genetic, we want homeostasis. No change. The same. On an instinctual level, survival and thriving excels when one's environment is known intimately, understood fully, and all factors are controlled. Anything new or any change is a threat to predictability. We can see this operate and play out on a societal and cultural level right now. At least these are my thoughts on it, okay? Change is often resisted by the system, by everything, by us. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, it is also fairly straightforward. We, all sentient beings, are living in the karmic realm of samsara, ever dissatisfied, ever grasping for permanence and stability, even though permanence and stability don't really exist. Despite existence being in a perpetual state of flux, it doesn't exist. And we think we like it that way, insofar as we think about it, right? Stability. Remember the three poisons? Greed, anger, delusion. We called them in a previous episode hunger, pissed off, and clueless. So if we are trying to do things differently, make our lives better and happier, making the lives of others better and happier, we are upsetting the homeostasis. We're tipping the apple cart, rattling the cage. Remember the Buddhist concept of attachment? We grasp and try to keep everything from changing, keep everything the same, or at least we try to perpetuate our belief that everything is stable and permanent, despite all the evidence to the contrary. This is not a definitive description that I'm giving you by any means, but I think it is a good enough working idea for today's discussion about why we don't stick with stuff, things that are better for us. So, okay, before we dig into practice makes perfect, let's start out with a mantra. It's a mantra of sorts. We'll keep coming back to it throughout today's discussion, okay? So here it is. It doesn't happen if I don't act. It doesn't happen if I don't act. Say it with me. It doesn't happen if I don't act. Over the past 23 episodes of A Resonant Life, we've talked about changing the way we think and act to create more happiness for ourselves and others. We've discussed using negative emotions or experiences as cues to completely turn around our thinking. We've discussed anger and how to tame and channel it. We've discussed breaking out of patterns by stopping, acknowledging, and taking deep breaths. We've talked extensively about being intentional in our thoughts and actions and being altruistic in all of them, putting others first before ourselves, and the list goes on. And I'm certain that we all have tried out many, if not all of these approaches in our lives. And I'm equally certain that many of us have had positive results from doing them, from taking these actions. But in a sense, these are all ad hoc things to do or ways to act and think based on our environments and the situations and what comes along in our given day. And ad hoc things in our lives tend to evaporate like the morning dew or dissipate as does fog as soon as the sun comes out. So then where are we? Potentially back to where we started. So the question is, how do we make all of our resonant life, authentic self uncovering strategies second nature? All these things, all these techniques and mind hacks, how do we make them second nature? How do we ingrain them in our hearts and in our minds? How do we just remember them when we need them? The answer? Practice. Concrete daily practice. Okay, what kind of practice? What does practice even mean? Or maybe you're thinking, I'm not a Buddhist and I don't want to do Buddhist practice. Or maybe you're thinking, I'm not comfortable with spirituality. So none of these concerns need to get in the way of engaging in daily, concrete practice to uncover and reveal your authentic self and become happier in your daily life. Nothing needs to get in the way of that. We use Buddhism here in our discussions as a source of information and wisdom, and to show us different ways of seeing and understanding the phenomena of our lives. And we use it to point us in directions that are counterinstinctual, right? Also, we are each only as spiritual in this project as happiness and joy are spiritual. If you think of happiness and joy as spiritual, then it's spiritual. If you think of happiness and joy as happiness and joy, then it's happiness and joy. Basically, it's up to you. And I'm going to repeat today's mantra right now, because that's what you do with mantras. You repeat them. It doesn't happen if I don't act. So don't let concerns about spirituality, Buddhism, don't let that get in the way. It doesn't happen if I don't act. So, okay, what is the it? What is the it that doesn't happen? It's change, abiding happiness, kind deeds, help and support of others. Okay? What are the acts? What are the acts? What is the action? Practice. Daily, routine, steady, repeated practice. There are infinite possibilities for us to create a daily practice. What is important is that you stick with it no matter what. And if you miss a day or two, that you go back to it. Without guilt, without recrimination, just go back to it. In fact, go back to it with joy, as if it is a friend you haven't seen in a while. Keep it positive. Keep it positive. Keep it as a value add, not a burden. A want-to-do thing rather than a must-do thing, even though it is an important thing to do. Make it a daily thing. So, a Tibetan Buddhist nun told me once that for her, morning and evening prayers and meditation were the bookends to her day. If we imagine, I thought this was a great analogy, because if we imagine a shelf of books, all different sizes, thicknesses, what holds them up? What keeps them together on the shelf? What keeps them from falling over? What makes them a whole? Books on a shelf, rather than a pile of books. In her case, morning and evening prayers and meditation. The practice gives the day context. The activities of the day become a part of the whole, a coherent whole held together by practice, sandwiched by practice. For her, the morning practice was the opportunity to set her heart and mind for the day. She would do practices to cultivate loving kindness and aspiration for awakening, called bodhicitta. She used this morning practice to point her heart and mind in a positive direction. And her practice in the evening was the chance to reflect upon the day, to contemplate how it went, what could have been done better, what went well, and to be grateful for having had the day to live and to love and to help. Another friend of mine, who's a Christian minister, she has a different practice, but it is also done every morning and every evening. Her practice is lighting a candle in the morning and lighting a candle in the evening, and then doing her prayers with that candle. She also places meaningful objects around the candle, things that remind her of others or of nature or of those loved ones in her life who have passed. And a wonderful part of her practice is she shares it. She posts pictures of her morning and evening candle and little setup every day on social media. And in a sense, she's helping all of her friends and parishioners to remember to practice by sharing her own. It's an invitation. She shares her practice as a reminder for others to find peace, to find anchoring, to find centering, to experience grace. My own personal practice is maybe a bit more than most people will want to do. It is kind of my nature to go all in, frankly, if you haven't figured that out yet by listening to me. But I'll share it here, as maybe it has elements that will be useful to you. My morning practice is grounded in cultivating and expressing gratitude, as well as setting my heart and mind toward a positive, altruistic mindset and action. So when I wake up, sort of as soon as I come out of the fog and stop hitting the snooze button, I do a quick reflection, expressing gratitude. Gratitude for waking up and being alive, again, for another day. That in itself is wonderful. And I don't take it for granted. And then I make a pledge that I will use the day to the best of my ability to help others with all the actions of my body, speech, and mind. This all happens before I even get out of bed. My eyes aren't even open yet. It's a very short but sincere reflection. And then after getting up, I will then offer water at my home altar. As a Buddhist, this is a common thing to do, and I'll repeat my pledge and gratitude. And later, I will do sutra and mantra chanting and meditation. At the end of the day, I go back to the altar to empty the water out the window, offering it to our garden and all that live there. And I do a short reflection on the mistakes I thought I made during the day. Mistakes being things that were selfish or thoughtless or not helpful. Maybe situations didn't go as well as they could have, and I reflect on how I could have done better to make them go better. And I express gratitude for all the blessings in my life and all the lessons, and I pledge to share them, to use them for others. So, side note, remember from previous episodes, we discussed that the blessings of our lives are infinite if we are engaged in altruistic actions and intentions. And then, right? So that's why I always have blessings to offer and to share, right? Okay, so then the end of the practice. Ideally, I would chant again. But to be perfectly honest, I'm usually too tired and I skip it. So if I do it, I keep it short. But I keep it meaningful. So ignoring any of the details of any of these examples, the Buddhist nun, the minister, me, what is common is morning and evening action. That is the type of routine, concrete practice we are discussing in this episode. These are the bookends. It doesn't happen if I don't act. The act is the practice. The it that can happen is the change, the positive change that goes against our natures, that goes against our instincts, that goes against our fiber, our grain, but that is the fuel of happiness. And to be honest, the simpler your morning and evening practice is, the better. Why? Because it is easier to sustain. It is easier to do no matter what is going on, where you are, or who you're with. Simple is strong. Simple is elegant. Simple is authentic. If the words or ideas of spirituality put you off, if it's something that you're not interested in, that's fine. Really, the practice doesn't have to be spiritual, not at all. It can be straight up aspirational, intentional, motivational. Yes, motivation. Yes. Maybe the way to think about it is motivation. What motivates you or what focuses you? This is what it is. We're all many rivers, right? Our paths, our lives. We've talked about this too. We're all flowing to one ocean, right? Our lives are the rivers, the many infinite paths, and the ocean is abiding happiness. The ocean is joy. The ocean is ultimate satisfaction. That's where we're all trying to go. That's the place of the authentic self. Those are the lives we're trying to create. This is the drive of our life. We're all pursuing happiness. All beings are trying to be happy, though the ones who are acting instinctually are maybe creating more unhappiness. We're trying to do the opposite. So we've talked about this before. And please let me toss in a little housekeeping here. A Resonant Life, A Resonant Life. Why do we call this podcast A Resonant Life? Because all of these things we do resonate like a string on a guitar or a violin or any stringed instrument. That resonance creates a sound, creates a note, a vibration. And the vibration we're creating is our actions in practice to become a source of happiness, all those others desperately searching for happiness too. Okay, back to practice. Daily practice is everyone making a commitment, however that works for you personally, to be altruistic in action and intent, to be a person who helps, who puts others first, who is working to be a creator of happiness and joy for others, to be a person others want to be around, to be a person others miss. To be honest, no practice is spiritual in and of itself, really. It is a conscious setting of intent and motivation, a willful declaration of how you intend to be and act. Okay? So please let me offer here a basic, stripped-down practice that you can customize to your life and beliefs and traditions. I don't want anyone finishing this episode and not having tools in their toolbox to do the work. Please let me offer here a basic, stripped-down practice that you can customize to your life and beliefs and traditions. I don't want anyone finishing this episode and not having the tools in their toolbox to do the work. Okay, morning. First, as soon as you feel awake, open your eyes, not open your eyes, doesn't matter. As soon as you feel yourself awake, say to yourself, I'm awake. I'm alive for one more day. Thank you. I am so grateful to be here. I will use this day to the best of my ability to be of help to others with everything I do, say, and think. 2. After getting up, fill a small cup or glass with water and set it in a special place, your altar if you have one, or a plant or picture of a loved one, just someplace special. And as you set it, say to yourself, I offer this water as a token of my faith and gratitude and commitment. And may all beings find relief and comfort from this offering. Nighttime. Get your cup of water that you put out in the morning, and if possible, just pour it outside, out a window or door, or pour it into a house plant with a prayer or thought like this. May all benefit from this nourishment. 2. And then think to yourself, thank you for all the blessings of this day. I did my best. I did my very best. Tomorrow, I will do better, and I will try to be a perfect help to all, without condition or distinction. Now, of course, you can alter, modify, tailor these as you see fit, whatever you do. The important elements of our project here at A Resonant Life, whatever you do, the important elements to be in sync with are 1. Expressing gratitude. 2. Committing to being of help without condition or distinction. And 3. Putting the needs of others before our own. These 3 concepts in action are the heart of the project, the heart of our project. Actions that arise out of these 3 are expressions of merged or unified compassion and wisdom, and will change your life for the better, as well as the lives around you. Guaranteed. I'm sure we've all already experienced lots of this already since we started this project. So let's make it happen. Let's act. Let's practice daily, morning and night. This discipline requires so little and will result in so much. So let's change our mantra now. Instead of saying, it doesn't happen if I don't act, let's say, it will happen because I act. Okay, thank you for joining me today. I deeply appreciate all your efforts to make your lives more joyful and happy, because your happiness touches everyone, everywhere. But for it to abide, for us to continue to make progress and shore up that progress, we need to practice daily. I hope today's episode gave you what you need to integrate a daily practice into your life. And I look forward to our next episode as we continue to uncover and discover our authentic selves. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more, please subscribe and share. If you'd like to share your own experience, thoughts, or ask a question, please send an email to mike@resonant.social. With gratitude, theme music is courtesy of Stock Audios, distributed by Pixabay. A Resonant Life is a podcast from the Time Is Now Productions.